The rain came down in sheets that October evening, turning the highway into a river of headlights and desperation. Sarah Chen gripped her steering wheel tighter, her windshield wipers working overtime as she navigated the treacherous road home. She was exhausted, bone-tired from pulling a double shift at the diner, her feet aching, her uniform still smelling of grease and coffee. All she wanted was to collapse into bed and forget this endless day. But then she saw him. A figure stood beside a disabled Mercedes on the shoulder, rain-soaked and helpless, waving frantically at passing cars. Most drivers didn't even slow down. Why would they? It was dangerous to stop on this stretch of highway, especially in weather like this. Sarah's rational mind told her to keep driving, to think of her own safety, to remember she was a single mother with a 7-year-old daughter waiting at home with the babysitter. But something in the way the man stood there, defeated and alone, made her foot move to the brake pedal. She pulled over in front of the Mercedes, her beat-up Honda Civic looking almost comical next to the luxury vehicle. Through her rearview mirror, she watched the man approach, and her heart rate quickened. He was tall, probably in his 50s, wearing what had once been an expensive suit now plastered to his body by the relentless rain. As he reached her window, she rolled it down just a crack, rain immediately spitting into her car. "Are you okay?" she called out over the storm. The man bent down, and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, not the kind from a long day at work, but something deeper, more profound. "Flat tire," he shouted back. "My phone's dead. I've been out here for almost an hour. No one will stop." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Every true crime podcast she'd ever listened to screamed at her to drive away. But his eyes, there was genuine desperation there, and something else. Defeat. This was a man at the end of his rope. "Get in," she said, unlocking the passenger door. "There's a gas station about 5 miles up. They have a phone you can use." The man hesitated, as if he couldn't believe his luck, then hurried around to the passenger side. He slid into the seat, immediately apologizing for the puddle he was creating on her floor. "Don't worry about it," Sarah said, pulling carefully back onto the highway. "It's just water." They drove in silence for a moment, the only sound the rhythmic beating of rain and the struggling heater working to defrost the windows. Sarah could feel the man's eyes on her, studying her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "I'm Robert," he finally said. "Robert Morrison." "Sarah." She kept her eyes on the road, navigating the poor visibility. "Thank you, Sarah. You have no idea what this means to me." There was something in his voice, a tremor of emotion that seemed disproportionate to the situation. She glanced over and was startled to see tears mixing with the rain on his face. "Hey, are you all right?" she asked, concern overriding her caution. "Is someone hurt? Do you need a hospital?" Robert shook his head, wiping at his face roughly. "No, nothing like that. I'm sorry. It's been a difficult day. Actually, a difficult year. Tonight was supposed to be." He stopped, laughing bitterly. "You don't need to hear this." But something about the storm, the isolation of the car, the strangeness of the moment made Sarah feel like they existed outside of normal rules. "I'm a good listener," she said softly. "Comes with the job. I'm a waitress." Robert was quiet for a long moment, then the words began to pour out. "I was on my way to the bridge. Not to cross it, to jump off it." Sarah's hands tightened on the wheel, but she forced herself to keep driving steadily. "My wife died 6 months ago," he continued, his voice hollow. "Cancer. We fought it for 3 years, but in the end. And my daughter, she won't speak to me. Hasn't in 5 years. I built an empire. Made more money than I could ever spend, but I did it by missing every ballet recital, every graduation, every moment that mattered. My wife forgave me before she died, but Jessica, my daughter, she never did. And without Catherine, without my girls, what's the point of any of it?" Sarah's throat tightened. She thought of her own daughter, Emma, waiting at home. She thought of all the shifts she worked, all the time she missed, trying to keep them afloat after her ex-husband disappeared. "Where does your daughter live?" "Seattle. She's a teacher. Married now, has a son I've never met. She sent back my last letter unopened. So go see her," Sarah said simply. "She doesn't want to see me." "Maybe not. But do you know what I've learned being a single mom, working 60-hour weeks just to keep the lights on? Time is the only thing we can't make more of. You can't buy it, you can't save it, you can only spend it, and you better spend it on the people who matter before you run out. She pulled into the gas station parking lot, the fluorescent lights harsh after the darkness of the highway. My daughter's babysitter, Mrs. Chen, she's 83 years old. She tells me this story about how her son died in Vietnam, and she never got to say goodbye, never got to tell him all the things she wanted to say. She's lived 50 years with that regret. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your daughter. Robert stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Just like that. Just show up. Just like that. Maybe she slams the door in your face. Maybe she doesn't. But at least you tried. At least she'll know you cared enough to try. Inside the gas station, Sarah lent Robert her phone to call a tow truck. The attendant said it would be at least an hour in this weather. Sarah should have left then. Emma was waiting. The babysitter needed to get home. She had another shift starting in 9 hours. But instead, she bought 2 terrible cups of coffee and sat with Robert at a grimy table, listening as he talked about his wife, his regrets, his fear. Why did you stop? He asked finally. In this weather, with a stranger. That was dangerous. Sarah shrugged, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. My mom used to say that we're all just walking each other home. Sometimes you're the one who needs help, sometimes you're the one giving it. Tonight, I guess I was supposed to give it. She smiled sadly. Though honestly, I almost didn't stop. I was thinking about how tired I was, how I just wanted to get home. But then I thought, what if that was me out there? What if that was my dad, or someone I loved, standing in the rain while everyone drove past? I'd want someone to stop for them. When the tow truck finally arrived, Robert walked Sarah back to her car. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and stars were beginning to peek through the breaking clouds. Sarah, he said, pulling a soggy business card from his wallet. Take this, please. I need to somehow thank you properly. She pushed it back gently. You don't owe me anything. Just promise me you'll go see your daughter. That's all the thanks I need. He nodded, tears streaming freely now. I promise. Sarah drove home thinking about the encounter, wondering if she'd really made a difference or if Robert would forget his promise by morning. She kissed Emma goodnight, paid Mrs. Chen, and fell into bed, the strange evening already feeling like a dream. 3 weeks passed. The incident faded into the background of Sarah's chaotic life. The mounting bills, Emma's school fundraiser, the leaky ceiling that needed fixing. She'd almost forgotten about Robert Morrison entirely until the day her manager called her into the office at the diner. Someone's asking for you, he said, looking puzzled. Says it's personal. Sarah walked out front and stopped dead. Robert stood there, but he looked different, lighter somehow, his eyes bright with something she hadn't seen that rainy night. And beside him stood a woman in her 30s with his same sharp features, holding the hand of a small boy. Sarah, Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. This is my daughter, Jessica. And my grandson, Matthew. I wanted you to meet them. Jessica stepped forward, her eyes shining. Dad told me what you did. What you said to him that night. She took Sarah's hand. I don't know if you understand what you saved. Not just my father. You saved the possibility of us, of this. She gestured to her father, to her son. We're not fixed yet. We're not perfect. But we're trying. Because of you, we get to try. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. You went to Seattle. I got on a plane the next morning, Robert said. Showed up at her house with no warning, no plan, just the memory of what you said about time. About not living with regret. She didn't slam the door. She invited me in. We talked for 8 hours straight. The little boy tugged on Jessica's hand. Is this the lady who saved Grandpa? His voice carried through the diner, and Sarah's coworkers and regular customers all turned to stare. Yes, sweetheart, Jessica said, picking him up. This is the lady who stopped in the rain. Robert reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I want to help you. I've done some research. I know you're struggling, working yourself to exhaustion to provide for your daughter. I own a foundation that provides college scholarships and vocational training. I want Emma to have every opportunity, education fully funded, from kindergarten through graduate school if she wants it. And I've taken the liberty of paying off your medical bills, your car loan, and 6 months of your rent. Sarah's knees went weak. Robert, I can't. That's too much. I didn't do what I did for. I know you didn't. That's exactly why you deserve it. He pressed the envelope into her hands. You gave me my life back, Sarah. You gave me my family back. This isn't payment. This is me paying forward the kindness you showed a stranger on the worst night of his life. Besides, he added with a small smile, I'm a millionaire with no one else to spoil. Let me do this. Let me be the one helping someone else walk home this time. That evening, Sarah sat with Emma, trying to explain what had happened without overwhelming her 7-year-old mind. Remember how we talk about being kind even when it's hard? She asked, smoothing her daughter's hair. Emma nodded seriously. Like sharing my lunch with Sam even when I'm really hungry. Exactly like that. Sometimes when we help people, we don't get anything back. We just do it because it's right. But sometimes, rarely, kindness comes back around in ways we never expect. Is Mr. Robert going to pay for me to go to college? He is. Emma thought about this for a moment. Mama, when I grow up, I want to be like you. I want to stop for people in the rain. Sarah pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, feeling the weight of this impossible, beautiful gift. She thought about that night on the highway, about the split-second decision to press the brake instead of the gas pedal. She thought about how close Robert had been to ending everything, and how a simple act of kindness, barely 20 minutes out of her life, had changed the course of 3 generations. We live in a world that tells us to look out for ourselves, to protect our own interests, to pass by those in need because it's safer, easier, more convenient. But sometimes, in the rain, on a dark highway, we get the chance to choose differently. We get the chance to see another person not as a stranger or a risk, but as a human being who needs help. Sarah hadn't stopped that night expecting anything in return. She'd stopped because it was the right thing to do, because she couldn't live with herself if she didn't, because somewhere deep in her heart she believed that we're all responsible for each other in ways big and small. And in the end, that simple belief, that ordinary act of human kindness, had saved a life, reunited a family, and changed her world forever. Not because kindness always gets rewarded, but because sometimes, just sometimes, the universe conspires to remind us why compassion matters. The rain still falls, people still need help, and every day, we all get to choose whether to stop or keep driving. Sarah had chosen to stop, and in doing so, she discovered that the greatest wealth isn't measured in money, but in the connections we make, the lives we touch, and the moments when we choose to be our best selves for someone else.